Discovery.
Hello and welcome to Colourful in the post-truth apocalypse. I'm Clair, as always, I'm hanging out with Mike.
Hello.
Claire.
Hey.
And Pete.
Hello.
This week, and for the next couple of weeks, next 3 weeks potentially, we're going to be talking about the JFK assassination, which turns 60 this year.
God.
This month, November. Obviously November 22nd is the anniversary. And I thought, you know what, we're getting jumping on that bandwagon.
Yeah.
Even if it does involve me pretty much giving over the last 2 weeks to watching exclusively JFK documentaries.
Depressing as fuck, isn't it, really? In lots of ways.
What do you mean I started going into 6-story flats and working out trajectories? I've got red tape all over my room connecting dots, man. I've been asleep for 3 years.
Where were you when he was shot?
I wasn't born. But a lot of people ask that in America, don't
Everybody
they?
seems to know where they were when JFK was shot. It's one of them things.
I know
what
where I
Diana-
was when Diana died.
Yeah,
I
I know where
remember
I
it.
was when I first saw 9/11.
Yeah, my
Yeah,
days.
our generations is. I remember where I was when it was 9/11.
Yeah.
Princess Diana, yeah.
And Princess Anna, their generations was, where were you when Kennedy got shot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Elvis Presley died.
Well, yes, for the older one. Yeah, he was later than Kennedy, wasn't he? He was the 70s for Elvis.
Yeah.
Either way, we've all got him as a generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be going through this week. We're going to do some background on JFK, why he might have been unpopular among certain people, certain groups of people, who may or may not have a reason to want him departed. And then we'll go through the assassination itself. And then next week, we'll try and keep conspiracy theories to a minimum, although they probably will leak in. We'll do our best. We'll do the next, and then the next couple of episodes, we'll progress things further.
Should we just do a quick RIP for Matthew Perry?
Chandler Bing.
Yeah, if you want to.
Because I think he's worthy of a RIP. He was very, very good at what he did. Every single person, we all know who Chandler is, whether you were a fan of Friends or not.
Or not, yeah.
But the majority were fans of Friends.
Probably
and
the
those
funniest Friends character.
And those that were fans of Friends, how many people would say Chandler was
their favourite.
favourite? Yeah, you had Chandler.
Yeah, we don't need
Joey.
to go into too much. Friends shit, Friends
Yeah.
is shat.
But that's just your opinion. We're
I've got a
talking
tattoo
to,
of all the funniest lines in Friends. You want to see it? Listener, you won't see this, but
we're
it's a
talking
beauty,
to
isn't it,
the
that
many.
tattoo of all the funniest lines from Friends.
Well,
There's
we're
My arm's
nothing
blank,
there's
listener.
nothing there.
yeah, completely. But no, R.I.P. Matthew Perry. He sorely missed by a lot of people, I'm sure.
Died too young.
Yeah, I'll give him that.
Was he
I mean,
drunk
I
in
don't-
his spa or something?
At least he went in a hot tub.
Drunk in a hot tub.
Can't argue with that. So I want to go. My own hot tub. As a millionaire. Right. Okay, let's thank some new return listeners and we'll crack on with it. Telford in the UK, our hometown. Moscow, because it annoys Pete.
Moscow.
Jersey City and Houston in America. Houston, it's Texas, isn't it?
Yep.
Edinburgh in the UK. Dalmas in South Africa. Boardman, Oregon. Gifton in the US even, Brussels in Belgium, Stevenage in the UK, Ashburn, Virginia, and Walnut Creek in the US. Do you know where that is?
It's a new one though.
Yeah, it's a new one.
Walnut.
Sounds like the kind of place a Sasquatch would be found.
You know what it actually does? I'm surprised Sasquatch isn't involved in the JFK assassination, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's where I come into it.
He was
Because
he was a second shoot on the grassy
I
knoll,
went down a rabbit hole and it took me to a big fucking hairy 7.5 tall Sasquatch like.
Assassin.
Yep. And he didn't use a sniper rifle. He flicked an acorn. Yeah, with his super big hands.
Right, well, we'll come to that. We've already broken the no conspiracy theory rule.
That's my own conspiracy, by the way. I just made that up on the spot.
It's original. I'll give you that.
It's a new one.
You should write a book on it, no one's done it before. So JFK's early life, born on May 29th, 1917 in Brooklyn, Massachusetts. I always fucking mispronounce it.
Massachusetts.
Yeah. John F. Kennedy, known as Jack, was the second of 9 children. His parents, Joseph and Rose Kennedy, hailed from 2 of Boston's most prominent Irish Catholic political families. So he's come for money.
Hmm.
You know, this isn't just... Not saying that, you know, that's bad.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
They
but...
were immigrants originally.
Yeah.
Was it his great-grandfather or his grandfather came over during the famine?
Yeah. Irish Catholic political family. The dad was quite enterprising. Joey, he got into government. He desperately wanted one of his kids to be president one day. He wanted a Catholic president, because there hadn't been one apparently. And he wanted to be from his family, obviously. Jack led a privileged youth. He attended private schools such as Canterbury and Chilhowty. I'm assuming them are privileged schools in America.
Must be, I don't
Yeah.
know, I've never heard of him myself.
Spent summers in Cape Cod. Joe Kennedy's dad was a hugely successful businessman and an early supporter of Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
America's probably last great president.
Yeah, maybe Eisenhower in there too. And JFK, he wasn't bad.
Oh yeah, JFK was alright.
He was appointed chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission and in 1934 named ambassador to Great Britain. Bit of controversial figure, Joe Kennedy, when he was ambassador, said that Britain shouldn't go to war against Germany because they get their asses kicked. Which isn't what you want the American ambassador to be saying when you're quite pally with Great Britain and probably going to be sending them a lot of war material and lending them money.
Oh, yeah, like quite a small island. It
Yeah,
was
you
a
look
bit,
at- you look-
big for our boots,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it's the empire as
They
well.
only had to
Plus,
look at
Yeah.
history, didn't they, to think again, but they obviously didn't. They were just blindsided looking at our little island.
plus
weren't
the
they?
French.
Hmm.
Yeah, he didn't like that. They did not like that one. Yeah, he wrote a book on it called When England Slept. So yeah, if you're a US ambassador, shouldn't be writing stuff like that, should you?
No.
But JFK joined the US Navy in 1941 and 2 years later was sent to the South Pacific where he was given command of a patrol torpedo boat, or a PT boat. Think of a little speedboat with a couple of torpedo tubes on the side. You use them for patrolling between islands. And you say that torpedo can bring down a much bigger ship. You've got speed on your side. Although not in this scenario, a Japanese destroyer struck the craft, PT-109, in August 1943. Kennedy helped some of his Maroon crew back to safety and was awarded the Navy and Marine Corps Medal for heroism. Swam out with them on his back, basically. Swam them to this little bit of dry land there was.
Fair play.
Mad.
That's why his back was fucked.
Mm.
Kennedy's back was completely fucked. He was in agony with his back.
It's like bloody Forrest Gump, isn't he, when he's running them through the woods.
Yeah. His older brother, Joe Jr., was not so fortunate. He was killed in August 1944 when his Navy airplane exploded on a secret mission against a German rocket launching site. Actually a really interesting story. They were trying to make a drone that was a bomber, filled with explosives, and they were trying to fly it remote control. And the idea was the pilot took off with it and ejected and then parachuted out. But sadly there was a premature detonation.
Fuck.
But yeah, they were trying to turn... We don't need crew on these bombers if we can just fill them with explosives and remote them in.
Early drone, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A grieving Joe Sr. told Jack it was his duty to fulfill the destiny once intended for Joe Jr. to become the first Catholic president of the United States.
No pressure then.
No pressure.
Your brother's dead, it's your job now to be president. Fucking hell.
So he left the Navy by the end of 1944, presumably because his fucking back was shot. And less than a year later he returned to Boston, preparing a run for Congress in 1946. As a moderately conservative Democrat and backed by his father's fortune, Jack won his party's nomination handily and carried the mostly working class 11th district by nearly 3-1 over his Republican opponent in the general election.
He may or may not have been helped by the mob.
Maybe.
Yeah.
His dad's mob connections are a bit tenuous.
It's more to do with Sinatra, wasn't it? The mob connection.
Oh, Sinatra
Because
was one of the
Sinatra was
mob.
well into the mob,
Yeah,
wasn't he?
there was a rumour Sinatra had one of his ex-wives killed by the mob. Old
Son's
Blue
in The
Eyes.
Sopranos, isn't it? He-
Yes.
Yeah.
His dad's in the... No, not the
His
Sopranos.
son
Son's
is
in the Sopranos.
Yeah. So his dad's not in The Sopranos.
Who's
No,
son?
but he's in Broadwalk Empire.
Who is?
Joe Senior, Kennedy.
Is he?
Yes, he is. He's in Broadwalk Empire in the later seasons. Rumours he might have dabbled in a bit of booze smuggling, but that's about as far as the mob connections
Right.
allegedly go. A lot of it was like old gangsters trying to sell a book on their deathbed kind of thing.
Mhm.
Oh, I was at Al Capone's house and Joe Kennedy came over for dinner. That kind of shit. It's like, okay, maybe not.
Don't smoke that fire.
So he entered Congress in January 47 at the age of 29 and immediately attracted attention, as well as some criticism from older members of the Washington establishment for his youthful appearance and relaxed, informal style. Bit of a man of the people, JFK, would you argue?
Yeah, great orator.
Yeah?
Definitely.
Definitely.
If you've listened to any of his speeches.
You've probably heard a couple without
I was gonna say,
realising them,
yeah,
but
yeah.
we'll get to it in a bit.
I have a dream.
That was Martin Luther King.
I was joking, for fuck's sake. 70 years ago.
It's closer. It's a president at least.
Oh, hey!
But then again, you were close to Martin Luther King, because they're both assassinated.
Similar kind of time as well.
A lot of people get assassinated when they want peace.
Mad, isn't it,
It's
that?
strange, isn't it?
No.
Nothing to do with
Americans, when they want peace,
I think you can
they
put it
get
down-
assassinated.
I think you can put it down to most countries and
Or
all
people in America.
Yeah,
like-
that's what it'll be,
But it's going to
yeah.
hit profits with arms sales, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Lennon.
I did know that was Lincoln, by the way. I was joking again.
So yes, and he's 29. He's getting into Congress. That's fantastic. That's what politics should be, especially American politics. It's full of old men.
Well,
Look who you've got running now. Biden, who's 80, going to be 81 by the time he rocks around, and Trump, who's going to be
For
late
me,
70s.
age doesn't matter. It's who you are
It's
as
the
a
mind,
person
isn't it?
and what the policies are. Look at Bernie. He's 80.
Yeah,
And
but he's a one-off.
maybe so, but
I mean,
that's what I'm
it's-
saying. It isn't about age.
who,
it's
Bernie
about-
Eccleston?
Bernie Sanders.
All right. He's about 110, isn't he?
Far off. My point is that I think the world changes very quickly, and I don't think an older person can keep up with that. I'd struggle at 40.
If they're compos mentis, then that's fine. But if they're Joe Biden, where they're just a walking mummy,
Sleepy Joe.
Sleepy Joe, he's completely demented, and that's no good, is it?
No offence, American listeners, if
Yeah,
you
no
like
offence,
Joe
Joe.
Biden.
Well, you haven't got much of a choice in all
I think-
fairness.
Yeah, I think something like 73% of Democrats don't want him to run.
No, I think people have realised what a
He is
fucking
past it,
washout
that's
he
it.
is.
Yeah, and
And he's a complete establishment hack as well.
he's the swamp that Trump
Mm.
wanted to drain, which I still applaud Trump for. At least he had the intention to drain the swamp.
I don't think at that age you're going to get your money. They're getting their money's worth per day because you'll have to have afternoon naps and all sorts.
My point, 40 years in the Senate, where Joe Biden's been longer, maybe. He's made all them connections. He's a multi-millionaire. How's he a multi-millionaire on a politician's wage? It's all of them. They take all the money and they just stay in power forever. You never really get change. It's just the same people with the same opinions.
Yeah.
But I think getting younger people in is fantastic.
Yeah. We've only just really started doing it ourselves, haven't we? Let's face it. Look at David Cameron. When he became our Prime Minister, he was the youngest Prime Minister we've had.
Yeah, he was like
For-
45, wasn't he? Something like that.
But
Yeah, he's a ham-faced cunt.
But it
He
has,
was.
but it has slowly be getting a bit younger and a bit younger. One of them, we seem to be trying.
Yeah, that's true. But
Seem to be.
I'm not really asked about age as long as they're not using using what they know to gain money.
yeah, no, they were trustworthy.
Unfortunately, all like that, Claire, the whole system's corrupt. You have to get money out of politics, don't you?
Allegedly.
Well, no, definitely.
Just look at the PPE from COVID in this country, and
Hancock and his
Cox.
millions of extra money that he earned. It was Hancock, wasn't it? That bought
Some woman as well
that invested in.
sold the NHS a load of dodgy masks and ended up buying a yacht. But
Well,
that, corruption, it runs
Yeah.
deep. Kennedy got back into one re-election of the House of Representatives in 1948 and 1950, and in 52 ran for the Senate, defeating the popular Republican incumbent Henry Cabot Lodge Jr. In 53, on the 12th of September, he married the beautiful socialite and journalist Jackie Lee Bouvier. Jackie. I like Jackie. Very attractive woman, Jackie.
She was beautiful. I was saying
Yep.
the other day we were watching it, weren't we? I was saying she was a stunner.
Yeah, he had quite a few, like the ladies, Kennedy. Marilyn Monroe, allegedly. Numerous affairs, and you're married to Jackie. What does that say?
So
Says
he's
his
very-
back can't have been that bad.
And he's high powered, you know.
Mm.
Abusing it potentially.
He certainly wasn't young, dumb and full of cum, was he?
No.
He was drained quite regularly by the sounds of it. 2 years later, he was forced to undergo a painful operation on his back while recovering from the surgery. He wrote the best-selling book Profiles in Courage, which won the Pulitzer Prize for biography. Today he didn't write it, it was his long-time aide, but still I imagine he dictated it. The presidency. In 56, after nearly earning his party's nomination for vice president under Adlai Stevenson in 1956, Kennedy announced his candidacy for president on January 2nd, 1960, defeating a primary challenge to the more liberal Hewitt Humphrey and Lyndon Baines Johnson, who he ended up being the vice president with, but those two guys hated one another. This is when he starts making enemies now. LBJ is, well, he was very ambitious, he didn't like Kennedy. He was going to break the ticket. When they go on to in the American system, they have a ticket, so it's Kennedy Johnson. It's on a ticket. Right? And he was going to break that ticket. He was going to stand against Kennedy instead of running with him again as VP.
Right.
That's pretty much unheard of, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very rare. Just saying that someone else who might have... It was a very closely fought, bitter battle between them two for the Democratic nomination too, so... Another person that doesn't like him. Well, the first one we've encountered that doesn't like him, to be fair. But he did pick him as VP, and he went up against his Republican opponent, Richard Nixon. Nixon had been in the White House a fucking long time. He was two-term vice president under Dwight D. Eisenhower, as you know. Military-industrial complex guy.
Yep.
Well, warned us about the
Yeah.
military-industrial complex. Second World War general, commanded the Allied forces in Germany. Very popular guy, very popular president. I listened to his speech, about his leaving speech, and he says, beware the military-industrial complex, because when we let them run the country, our defence will suffer, and the country will suffer. And I was watching, I was thinking, man,
How pathetic.
politicians don't sound like that anymore. He actually sounds like presidential, and he sounds like he gives a shit. Well, you don't get that anymore.
No, because they know they can't deliver it. I mean, they try and promise it as much
I
bullshit
think
as they
Obama
can.
tried
but-
a lot.
Oh yeah, he did.
He did. He
He
wasn't a
fucking-
bad president, I don't
He
think.
was a terrible president. He was
He
arguably
tried.
worse than Bush.
Why?
Wasn't there more arms sales under his bloody reign?
Oh
well?
yeah, the drone
Right.
strikes went through
America
the
was
roof
in,
as well.
2 wars under Bush. Once Obama got in, it was increased to 7. Yeah, he increased the drone strikes. He increased deportation of immigrants. More
Terrible.
jobs went abroad. You know, so
But you forget all the good shit that he tried to
and he
implement.
implemented Bush's tax cuts. He could only make a temporary Bush, and Obama made them permanent tax cuts for the rich. So he did it, and he didn't do anything that he said he was going to do. He said he was going to. It was all about change, wasn't it, for the positive, and it never happened.
Couldn't get the Medicare through, could he?
No,
No,
he
that.
tried
It was
though, didn't
Obamacare,
he?
They did-
wasn't it?
Obamacare.
They
He
tried.
tried.
It was very, very limited. He did
It
say,
was
he did
limited,
say,
but it was no reason for it to be limited. They had the Senate, the House, and the President. They could have put anything through they wanted to. But he appeased the Republicans for some reason and ended up doing a right wing Medicare. That was
See, I
ineffective.
always thought he seemed to try to be a good president. I didn't realise he did all the corrupt shit.
Yep. Sadly,
Well, they're all the same, as we
I
always
know.
say. It is true, isn't it?
It
They're
is.
all the fucking same, no matter how good you think they are.
I think
They're a twat.
I
Yep.
think you can argue that after Kennedy, every single president, barring maybe a couple, has been a war hawk. They just wanted war. We've always got into a war, haven't we?
well,
Yeah.
according to Chomsky, every president after Eisenhower should have been hanged under the
Well, even Kennedy.
possibly, yeah, Bay of Pigs.
Yeah.
They did send troops to Vietnam, or certainly advisors, and probably did a bit of bombing, I imagine.
Probably. But he's up against Nixon for the presidency. And it's the first television debate. And it's really weird because Nixon's got the flu, but he won't take any medicine for it because he thinks it'll slow his thoughts. So he stood there, sweating, clammy, bit out of breath. And people who were watching it on television looking at young, handsome JFK giving all his wit and charm, and Nixon who looks like he should be in bed. Right? And Kennedy won that. Kennedy won that hands down. But if you listen to it on the radio, you think Nixon won. Nixon did better, but he looked awful, and it was how television can alter the perception.
Yeah.
And he got the election in November, becoming the youngest man and the first Roman Catholic. And he won by a very narrow margin, fewer than 120,000.
Wow.
So, you know, but he's got this young, beautiful wife, they've got 2 small children. He's got this aura of youth and glamour in the White House now. It's like, they called it Camelot. He's got all these young people in with him, he's got his family with him. It's like, come on, we can change this. We can do it. It was that sense of
Very
that around
positive
him.
image.
Yeah, exactly, really positive image. He's a playboy president, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's got some nice teeth, hasn't he?
The Kennedy teeth are fucking famous, to be fair. They've all got them teeth. In his inaugural address given on the January 20th, 1961, the new president called on his fellow Americans to work together in the pursuit of progress and the elimination of poverty, but also in the battle to win the ongoing Cold War against communism around the world. Kennedy's famous closing words expressed the need for cooperation and sacrifice on the part of the American people. Quoting, and you must have heard this quote, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." I was tempted to do a JFK voice.
Yeah,
I decided against it.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of his voice now.
Ask not what your country can do for you, what you can
that's
do for
right.
your country.
Think
Is
of
something
Mayor
like
Quimby,
Mayor
actually.
Quimby from The Simpsons,
Yeah.
which is my really bad impression of Mayor
Wasn't
Quimby from The
too bad.
Simpsons. You got to do the air before you start, otherwise it doesn't work. So an early crisis in the foreign affairs arena occurred in April 1961 when Kennedy approved the plan to send 1,400 CIA-trained Cuban exiles in an amphibious landing at the Bay of Pigs in Cuba. This was intended to spur a rebellion that would overthrow the communist leader Fidel Castro.
I remember we talked about this in past
Operation Northwoods.
Operation Northwoods, yeah.
The simple version is the CIA wants Castro gone. Kennedy's like, I don't want to invade Cuba, I don't want a war with Cuba. They say, well, it's alright, we've got this army of Cuban exiles, 1,600 of them, we've trained them, we've supplied them. All we want from you is like 7 days of air cover. We need air support. And
Yeah.
Kennedy's like, you're fucking crazy? I'm not bombing Cuba for like the best part of a week. You know, I'll give you 2 days best.
He did say if they captured a specific port, then he might. Didn't
He might consider it. But other than that, he's like, are you fucking
Yeah.
crazy? Get out of my office.
And apparently he thinks that they set him up for failure.
Yeah, he's not happy with the CIA over this. The CIA aren't happy with him over this. They think he's lacks the balls to be a
Yeah.
president and
They
maybe a
went
little
through with
bit
it.
pro-communist.
And the CIA thought that he's got to back down. He's got to help them. He'll send in the planes, no problem. But he didn't. So
His generals hate him because they want to go to war with Cuba. The military, and of course, who were they representatives of? The generals, the military-industrial complex.
yep.
You got to remember, it's the early 60s. There's quite a few generals on both sides, both American and Soviet, who were more than happy to start a nuclear war.
Of course.
Get a
mate.
first strike in, take them out before they're going to do it anyway. We take them out before they take us out.
Very paranoid then.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. This is the peak of Cold War
Yeah.
paranoia because the Berlin Wall was just going to go up as well. So the Bay of Pigs ended in a failure and nearly all of the exiles were captured or killed. That June, Kennedy met with the Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev in Vienna to discuss the city of Berlin, which had been divided after World War II between Allied and Soviet control. And then 2 months later, East German troops began erecting a wall to divide the city. Kennedy sent an army convoy to reassure West Berliners of US support and would deliver one of his most famous speeches in West Berlin in June 1963. Ich bin ein Berliner. You heard that one?
No.
He's basically saying, look, the Russians might have put this wall up and you're deep in East Germany, but we're not going to abandon you.
Yeah.
We're not going to forget you. Here's an army convoy. It's got loads of stuff in it. I'm one of you. I am a Berliner. Ich bin ein Berliner. The funny thing is that a Berliner is a particular type of donut sold in Berlin.
Yeah. Say I'm a donut.
He said, I'm a donut. Kennedy clashed again with Khrushchev in October 1962 during the Cuban Missile Crisis. So Cuba gets really pally with the Soviet Union because the Americans have cut them off completely and want Castro dead. And the Russians go, hey, can we put some missiles in your country, please? Because the Americans have just stuck some in Turkey, and that's 150 miles from our border. Our early warning systems can't get them. They don't know they're coming. But Cuba's only like 90 miles off the US coast. Can we put some there, please? There's a bit of a one-upmanship.
We've done the Cuban
We have,
missile crisis, haven't we, in an episode?
Yeah,
Check it
Operation Northwoods, yes.
Yeah.
Check that one out. So yeah, and it leads to a massive international nuclear standoff between the Russians and the Americans. The world's never been close to a nuclear war at this point. And Kennedy's going through the back channels of Khrushchev. They're actually sending telegrams to one another, and then they stop talking on the phone. And it basically says, oh, Kennedy sort of kind of backs down, but so does Khrushchev. Kennedy says, I'll take them out of Turkey, the nukes out of Turkey, if you take the nukes out of Cuba. And they both agree. They both take the step back. Crisis over. And Khrushchev thought he could bully Kennedy. He thought he had the royal flush. Because this is all a poker game.
Of course it is.
And it turned out Khrushchev actually kind of got a bit of respect for Kennedy and thought, you know what, this is actually someone I could talk to here. Through the back channels. There's rumours that Kennedy wanted to have a joint moon mission between the Soviets and the Americans.
Yeah.
You know, he wanted greater cooperation with them.
He did, yeah.
Why should we be stuck in this never-ending cycle of arms manufacture? And, you know, Russia, the Soviet Russia, they were spending like 90% of their GDP on tanks and guns and everything, on the missiles. They don't want to be doing that. Same as you don't want to be doing that, but you're richer than them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that happened in July 1963. And they even got Khrushchev to join him in signing a nuclear test ban treaty. In Southeast Asia, however, Kennedy's desire to curb the spread of communism led him to escalate US involvement in the conflict of Vietnam, even as he privately expressed his dismay over the situation. He didn't want to... It led him to escalate it in the sense that he sent like 1,500 soldiers to go and train the South Vietnamese, who you're also equipping as well as training.
This was very much a public position, but privately, he'd already agreed to get out.
Yeah. He wanted out. He didn't...
Yeah, because in his run up to being president, he was saying that he's very anti-communist and that, so he had to look like he was
doing something,
but secretly he was like, nah, this is just going to end up in a disaster, just like they did for the French.
Yeah.
We've got to get out. And he'd actually ordered it, hadn't he?
He'd ordered a withdrawal of, so I'd say there was 1,500 there, I'm bringing 500 home in 6 months, and so as a phased withdrawal out. Didn't want to get involved. And he's been to war, remember? He's seen what war does to people. He doesn't want to send the next generation of Americans into a war somewhere over there for what? Okay, but it's communism. That's the problem. You can't let the communism seem to spread. Get a thing called the domino theory. If this country falls, the one next to it will fall. If that country falls, the one next to it's there. Oh, what we got over there, India. We don't want that going communist. We've got to stop it there in Southeast Asia. That was the theory.
But as you know, it never works.
Communism.
No, it's trying to stop people from determining their own future.
Yeah.
During his first year in office, Kennedy oversaw the launch of the Peace Corps, which is nice. That would send young volunteers to undeveloped countries all over the world.
I love that.
It's great.
Yep.
Like that. He was unable to achieve much of his proposed legislation during his lifetime, including two of his biggest priorities, income tax cuts and a civil rights bill, so he couldn't get them through.
No, he couldn't, no.
But he wanted them, they were on the list.
Yeah, Johnson eventually pushed them through after his death.
Why couldn't he get them through?
Might have had a hostile House and Senate. No politician really wants to cut income taxes. And remember, this is 1960s America. Try and get a civil rights bill through Senate, gives black people equality.
But at least he started the ball on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in all fairness, the country was also tearing itself a fucking part over it, wasn't it?
Yeah. Martin Luther King, I think, appreciated what he did.
Yeah, he certainly got the ball rolling.
Yeah.
So, the assassination. Here we are. November 22nd, 1963. The president and his wife landed in Dallas. He had spoken in San Antonio, Austin and Fort Worth the day before. That's a hell of a schedule for a man whose back is in fucking agony. And he's got his family with him he's got his wife with him on this one. Ironically, the first one she ever came on with him. This trip.
Makes you wonder why they didn't choose any different place to assassinate him in it.
This is actually not a bad position, is it? If you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Now, shortly after 12:30 p.m, so he's going from the airfield. The party then travelled in a motorcade to the Dallas Trade Mart, the site of Jack's next speaking engagement. The canopy is off. The Civil Service, and the Secret Service wanted him to ride with the bubble roof attached. Kennedy said, "No, I want the people to see me. I want to smile and wave." He also did privately say to Jackie that morning, "We're in nut country."
Oh dear.
Texas is a funny place. Texas is Democrat at this point, but there's growing Republicanism. Texas is very much now a red state, isn't it?
Oh God, yeah.
Very
Kennedy
much.
won Texas, but there's still a lot of opposition to him. The Dallas Star, the Dallas Herald, the newspaper is so right wing, it's unreal. They post an article on the day of his visit. Wanted for treason, dead or alive. Picture of JFK. Yeah. They were so anti-Kennedy that after the assassination, people rang them up and said, "Are you happy now?"
Well, is that not inciting it?
Well, yes.
You know, that'd be questioned now, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It was certainly... They were very anti-Kennedy to the point where that is iffy in it, let's face it.
Yeah.
And let's not forget that Texas has some of the most lax gun laws in the country. So if you're a nut, it's easy to get hold of a gun.
Well, Lee Harvey Oswald bought his Marca Carno Italian World War II rifle through the post.
Yeah. $19.99, wasn't it?
I think it might have been a bit more expensive, maybe $39.99, something like that. But yeah, it was very cheap. It's World War II Italian vintage rifle. Fires a pretty big round, standard kind of rifle round, the 7.62-ish or 6.5mm. Big heavy full metal jacket rifle bullet. And he's got a job in the Texas Book Depository. That morning he gets on the bus to work and he's got a bag, long bag, and he's like, "Oh, these are curtain rails from my apartment. I've got to take them with me. I'll take them home after work." That's the rifle.
Ooh.
He makes himself a little spot on the 6th floor of the Texas Book Depository. So, officially, okay, Oswald's up on the 6th floor of the Texas Book Depository, School Book Depository. He acted alone. He fired 3 bullets from a 6-story window in about 5.6 seconds.
Thought it'd come from a grassy knoll.
Now, this is the official version.
Oh, thought the grassy knoll was the official version.
No, this is the official. Oswald acted alone, lone nut gunman.
Yeah.
He strikes Kennedy.
Fired 3 shots in 5 seconds.
5 point, but he had been
bolt action rifle.
He'd been practicing that bolt action a long time, months. He'd been sat on his porch, dry cycling that months, getting the action right, keeping it oiled. He was seen to be doing that, just sitting there working that mechanism. Practice 1,000 times, get it right on the day.
And then firing 3 bullets at a moving vehicle.
And not a particularly fast moving target,
No.
but a moving target nonetheless.
The shots didn't come from downways; they come from sideways. You can easily see it on the video.
On the Zapruder film.
This is not what officially happened. This is what.
Right,
This
this
is
what
just
happened.
what
This is
officially
really-
happened,
Alright, okay.
This is what
The Warren Commission.
Yeah, the government, etc. This is what was officially written down.
This is the official
the
report.
inquest of it.
They watch the videos too, yes?
The Zapruder film wasn't made public until 1975, which is the one that we've all seen, the Zapruder film, where you visibly see Kennedy, what potentially could be a shot from the front.
Well, they reversed it, didn't they? They actually meddled with the video and reversed a couple of frames.
But the 2 crucial frames are missing. Frames 14 and 15 are missing, and they are the ones that happened right before the impact.
And right at the impact.
And right at the impact. They're missing.
But not on the film that we've seen.
No, you'll never see those. The FBI have got them.
Right.
Ooh.
So he was struck once. So the first shot misses. It hits the pavement and hits someone in the thigh.
Ooh.
Yeah. Everyone thinks the car has backfired so no one really pays it much attention. The next shot hits Kennedy in the back, upper back, neck edge. Just
I thought it was at the throat.
the
wasn't
bullet
it? It was like-
exits at the throat.
Right here, innit?
Yeah.
exit out the front of the throat.
Remember, the
wasn't it?
bullet is coming down to Kennedy from the rear, so it's upper neck on the point of impact, and the bullet upper back at the point of impact, and throat on the way out.
Oh.
Kennedy's hands come up, as shown in the Zapruder film. That's a sign of him probably being paralysed immediately at that point. Jackie just pull his hands down and they go back up. You can see that in the Zapruder film. He does not slump because of his back brace. He's wearing a back brace. So he immediately, his arms go up. At the same time, Texas Governor John B. Connally Jr., who was also in the limo with his wife, was shot in the back. That bullet went on to break a rib. It was in and out. It broke the fourth rib, came down,
Hit his
wrist because he turned and went into his
the guy that
thigh.
sat in front of him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bald guy.
Yeah.
Connolly is sat not as everybody thinks. He is sort of directly in front of JFK.
Yeah.
He is sat lower down and in the middle. They're on jump seats. They're temporary seats. So that bullet plausibly can do that if he's turning at the time, which you can see in the film. A lot of people dispute the magic bullet theory.
Hence calling it a magic bullet.
Yeah, because there's some people say it makes a 90-degree turn. Ballistic studies nowadays have shown that it is possible,
But it doesn't mean that it did happen.
but it doesn't mean that it did happen. But it is possible.
Of course, some people still dispute that.
Yes, which we will get into, of course, in another episode. Right, so he's shot and wounded, but he recovers. The next shot is apparently the kill shot to the head.
So is that the fourth shot?
Third
then?
shot.
Yeah, but you said he took one shot and it missed and hit somebody in the
Yeah.
thigh.
Second one hits Kennedy in the back, goes through his neck into the Texas Governor. That's one shot.
Right, got you. And then the third shot's the one that gets him in the skull.
head. Yeah.
Allegedly, that shot comes from the back and the rear left.
Huh?
Yeah.
Nah, it
We were
doesn't.
thinking that
It
it
does.
was the
Nah, that comes from the front, mate. I've fucking seen that video.
But the evidence that they presented.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck about the evidence they presented. The video I watched, that guy, that independent guy that was
There's a film,
filming everything
yeah.
at the right time, that fucking...
It does appear, doesn't it, to come from the front.
All of the fucking... The pink mist
Yeah.
comes out the back. That is the exit wound pink mist.
But the American government is saying, no, that's not correct, it came from behind.
That's
If that-
complete bullshit.
If that was the case, Jackie can't be picking up the brains off the back because
No.
the
The brains
brains
would have
been
gone
in the
forward.
Front.
She picked a bit of a brain off the back of the fucking boot.
Oh, you want to take this up with the...
You want to take this up with the Warren Commission?
Yes,
I
yes.
will, no problem.
There are many,
I'm
many...
more eloquent than most of those.
There are many, many theories as to if that shot did indeed come from the right front, if it came from behind, lower down, if it came from anywhere else. People say they've heard 4 shots, some say 5.
Some say 6.
Potentially
I've heard,
6.
I've heard
3 to 6, they
6.
said,
I've
didn't
heard
they?
6.
But the Warren Commission says 3 shots. So Oswald gets off 2 shots, 3 shots. One is a wounding shot, probably going to kill him eventually before he gets to the hospital. And the second one is a headshot. He's a trained US Marine, although not the best trained, not best qualified Marine shooter. Marksman, expert and sharpshooter. With your 3 shooting grades, and Lee Oswald was the middle one. He was expert. So still, US Marines are known for their accuracy as a service. Is that really unlikely that he made that shot? Yes, it is. I think everyone would agree with that. That's not a conspiracy theory. I've seen someone do
yes,
it.
it's unlikely that he could have done it.
Yeah,
But
the
not
2
impossible.
shots, but not impossible. I've seen it done.
I'd love to see a photo of like what he'd have seen on the day. You know, surely they would have took as part
Yeah,
of
you
this
can go to the
investigation.
window and you can see, yeah.
Yeah, part of this investigation, they'd done all that, wouldn't
Yeah, they would have done. They'd work out.
And Ben was telling you about a sniper that tried it.
It's a ballistics expert and marksman. He did it on his 3rd attempt. So it took him 3 attempts, and he's probably a better shot than Oswald. They got Carlos Hancock to recreate it, who was the US Marine Corps' highest killing sniper in Vietnam.
70 plus.
Something like that.
And
He couldn't do it in 100.
He couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it in 100 attempts, could he?
It was ridiculous. Yeah. So, and remember, Oswald's got that adrenaline pumping.
It's the US president.
It's the president. Am I sure I'm going to do this? There's the crowd, the noise, everything going through his mind. What about my wife and children? And he makes that shot. He makes those 2 effectively kill shots. That's either incredibly lucky, incredibly skilled, or really unlikely, is it not?
Yep.
Yeah.
But according to the report, he did it. Then he put the rifle, he hid the rifle, didn't he?
Yeah.
Walked down the stairs, 6 flights of stairs.
6 flights of stairs. The
Came
police
across
came
a
in,
policeman on the 2nd floor.
and he said, "Yeah, I work here." And that's all it was. Went past him.
And he was apparently backed up by the owner. wasn't
Yeah,
he?
yeah. You
He
said like
yeah,
he works
does
here.
work here.
Because obviously they're going around going, shit, the shots could have come from here. Is everyone who works here?
So they let him go.
He then leaves.
Goes to a bar, doesn't he? Or
Just the
something?
back of a movie theatre.
Yes. First of all, he's sudden. He sees the police cars go screaming past, and he's been at this point been reported missing from the book depository. So he gets away with it, standing looking at a TV shop window, puts his head down, and then he tries to get the bus. Can't get the bus because the traffic's jammed, so he can't get a taxi. He decides to duck into a movie theatre. Actually, he's approached first by a police officer, J.D. Tippett. Oswald, who's armed himself with a revolver at this point, shoots Tippett in the stomach. He later dies from those injuries. So then now he's definitely drawn attention to himself.
Yeah.
And he goes and ducks into a movie theatre where he's later arrested. We'll get into Oswald more next week because it's an interesting story. 24-year-old Lee Oswald, a sposer of leftist causes, an active member of the Fair Play for Cuba Committee, an avid admirer of Russia and of Cuba's Fidel Castro, and a man who once lived in Russia, Dan Rather reported on CBS News at the time. And yeah, Oswald did defect to Russia for a couple of years, worked in it, didn't realise it wasn't the socialist utopia that he thought it was going to be, after 2 years of doing 12-hour shifts 6 days a week in a television factory. Did find himself a wife out there. At one point he went to the US Embassy to rip up his passport and say, "I'm never coming back." Couldn't quite destroy it, so ended up keeping it. Apparently passports are quite hard to rip up.
Yeah, they've sort of got that plasticky cover, haven't they?
Yeah, it is, yeah. So yeah, he's certainly got motive. He likes Fidel Castro. He's a member of the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. He actually does try to get to Russia via Cuba, and he wants to leave again. Other than that, though, doesn't really have much of a reason to hate Kennedy, apart from the fact that Oswald's a Marxist and Kennedy's a capitalist. That's probably about it. Kennedy's like a fairly left politician for the time, but so I mean he can't be too unhappy with that.
He'd have been paid. Like, if it was him, it's not going to be him just off his own volition, is it?
Well, the lone nut theory is the
That's
one
the
that's
official theory.
officially put forward.
Of course, Oswald denied any guilt.
"I didn't shoot anybody. No, sir. I'm just a patsy," he told reporters.
What's a patsy?
Scapegoat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just a patsy. That's interesting. I often think with like Oswald's left to live in Russia, came crawling back. The CIA might have tapped him up being a former Marine and said, "Look, we'll keep you on a bit of a retainer, we'll pay you some money every month. And, if we ask you to do something, you do it, or we're going to deport you and your wife back to Russia.
Probably worse than that.
Or we'll lock you up and deport your wife. And you'll never come and you'll never see him again." That's possibly the thing. Maybe, as my thing. Oswald's tax returns have never been released. Even now, they won't release Lee Harvey Oswald's tax returns.
Don't release a lot of shit, will they?
No, they won't release a lot at all.
What could they be covering up there? You know what I mean? If you're going to be paid to do something dodgy, it's not
If
going to
it
be...
was a lone nut who killed the president,
Yeah.
then there's no harm in releasing everything, is there?
Yeah,
Because
he's obviously been getting cash injections from somewhere.
If they were paying him a couple of $100 a month just to sit on a retainer and do something for them, with this threat hanging over him, he's been shown on his tax returns he's taking money from the US government. So that would involve him in some kind of making complicit. Maybe I'm just a patsy.
Yeah.
I think also he'd realised what he'd done at that point. I think it was a big oh shit moment.
I don't think,
Crept
would you really
in.
put them in on your tax returns if
They'd have to be,
if you're
yeah.
getting money from the government?
Yeah, they'd have to go on it. You have to declare everything.
Well, that's not very clever, is it?
clandestine.
No, but they just don't release his tax returns.
What did you say? Americans aren't very clever, you saying, Pete?
Yeah, look.
But you just wouldn't put it on your tax return. Do the mob people put all their shit on the tax return? Honestly.
Well, do you
They've
think
still got to have
fucking-
a
what's his
accounts-
tits was What's his tits was caught, wasn't
Al
he?
Yeah.
Capone,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Capone
He
for
didn't,
tax
yeah.
evasion. That's what he was caught
Yeah,
for.
he was, yeah.
I thought you'd have legitimate businesses, and then you put your tax through your legitimate businesses, and then you have your
Yeah,
on
he
the
probably,
side.
oh, that's what he did, but
You had too much.
too much on the side.
But still, even if it was just like it was disguised as something else, it wasn't from the CIA. It doesn't say CIA payment on it. It says like
Wink, wink.
Department of Health and Welfare, even though he's not claiming any benefits.
Yeah.
Well,
It could have
that's
even
really
been
not-
put
yeah.
through as something completely different.
Yeah.
But
Anyway, he never got to go to court,
just a random theory.
No.
and we never got to see all the evidence.
No, because he was shot
Because
in.
he was shot and
Killed by Jack Ruby. Not a mobster, as much as he's portrayed as one. Nightclub owner. Loved Kennedy. Kennedy. Jack. To give him his full name, Jack Rubenstein. Very pro-Jewish man. And he really liked Kennedy because Kennedy put a lot of Jewish guys in his cabinet, so he thought Kennedy was a friend to the Jews in America. So, I mean, he actually closed his nightclub over the weekend and even after he reopened, they had the president's picture surrounded by black ribbon or whatever the Americans do. We'll put black crepe around paintings, photos, won't we? He did that, he kept that behind the bar. Guy loved Kennedy. Knew a lot of policemen as well because he's a nightclub owner, and he would go down the station and report, particularly nasty clients there may have been. He's probably beat up on the way out. Was a bit of a hard nut, Jack Ruby, not just some fat nightclub owner. He was an hard nut. And he got in with a revolver and shot Kennedy. Didn't shoot Kennedy. He shot Oswald in the stomach. Oswald dies. And Ruby dies very shortly after of a fast-acting cancer.
convenient, wasn't it?
Did go to trial, but he was dead very quickly after that. Interesting. I mean, there is a rumour that he was allowed in rather than just going down the parking ramp. They did this in the open, by the way. They did it in the underground parking underneath
They
the
were
police
bringing him out,
station.
weren't they, to take him
Reporters
to
there, the full
You
circus,
see it, can't you?
and he just ducks in.
There's video footage of it.
Yeah, he's even got to pretend he's paparazzi or something, hasn't he?
Well, he knew the cops as well, so if he was down there, they would have just gone, "Hi, Jack."
Yeah. And there's a chance he maybe knew he got, cancer in it.
Maybe.
Doesn't he say that he couldn't recall shooting him or the days up to it or something?
Yeah, there's a possible. You could argue that both of these might be MK Ultra. There's a case you made for that. They're giving them LSD until they get mind control. They can activate them.
Yeah.
A Manchurian candidate.
Manchurian candidates. There is maybe a theory that could have happened.
sleeper agent.
Yeah.
That kind of style.
Call of
almost.
Duty, the one with set in a Cold War, where the guy's a sleeper, he gets all the numbers in his head.
Yeah.
Like that kind of shit. Number of stations exist. Don't know if you do that. You're the ones who just go on a broadcaster and go 1, 42, 73. Just read out random numbers. No one knows what the fuck they're for.
Yeah,
Lost.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Hey!
The series that no one ever finished, isn't it?
I did in
finished
the
it.
end. I did in the
That's
end.
why it pissed me off. So, how many series and that's the ending? I was like, oh my.
Well, they
fucking life.
swore all the way through, didn't they, from the beginning? No, don't
got a
worry.
plan,
They're not
yeah.
all just going to be dead. Don't worry, that's not going to be the outcome.
They're all dead.
Bastards.
No.
I watched the first couple of episodes and thought, this is bollocks.
I know, I loved it. I loved it. It was good. It was addictive.
It was good, yeah.
Every week it was like fucking. Okay, it got a bit worse in the later seasons.
Yeah, season 6 and with
The
the shed
alternative
and
timelines.
things.
That blew
Yeah,
your mind, didn't it?
weird.
Yeah, but
Pause.
it's great while it lasted until the fucking ending. A bit like Game of Thrones.
Yeah. So Kennedy's body is driven at high speed to the nearest hospital, and even though he's not pronounced dead immediately, there is no heartbeat but a faint, no breathing but a faint pulse, and a massive hole in his head.
I was saying to Pete when we watched this documentary, they're saying they were working on him for half an hour. I think with that hole in the head, you know, why would you, you know, as the doctors?
That's exactly what Jackie said.
Catastrophic failure, you know, he ain't coming back.
Any chance that you gotta try, haven't you?
He was
It's
the
the
president. He
It's
was
a
the
weak
president. They had
pulse.
to try, didn't
Yeah.
A
they?
weak pulse.
Weak
but,
pulse, no
but
blood
his-
pressure.
But brain's missing.
Yeah.
So he.
Jackie said exactly the same thing as you. She said, "Why are you bothering? He's already dead." She
Yeah.
literally.
Didn't she?
I
In
wouldn't want to. You know, you wouldn't want somebody that fuck.
He's gonna be a vegetable if he did survive.
Yeah, I was going to say that, but I was just looking for the good words.
She,
Didn't she say that to a doctor when she
She's
was like in the
literally-
waiting room?
she
Wasn't
literally said that to
basically?
a doctor. She's got part of his brains cupped in her hand. You know, she gathered some off the back of the limo.
Covered in his blood and that, wasn't she?
Yeah, she's splattered in blood. That famous pink dress is splattered in blood. She is completely shell shocked. And there's a bit of a thing with Texas law says the autopsy has to be done in Texas. Texas law, murder cases after the autopsy has to be done by Texas state. LBJ like, no, we're doing it in Washington. I need to get back to Washington. I need to be sworn in. I need to be sworn in immediately. He's only like fucking 3 cars behind as well, remember? But all he wanted to be was president. That was it.
You could tell that.
You could
couldn't
tell that
you,
from the documentary,
From that
yeah.
documentary, the way he was, the way his mannerism was, everything about it.
Apparently him and his mob kind of walked in like
he weren't
cocks
arsed
of
at
the walk.
all. Yeah, he
was
weren't
not
arsed.
bothered.
Wasn't arsed.
No.
No.
So,
Made me feel like he was sort of involved in it.
well, he had every reason to want him dead.
Maybe.
The pilot of Air Force One refuses to take off, saying, I came in with President Kennedy and I'm going to leave with President Kennedy. Refused to take off, and eventually the White House got its way and the Texans released the body in a bronze casket. They had to take the handles off to get it through the plane doors.
This
They had
was
to
only
remove
about,
the seats.
wasn't this
This
only
is-
about 2 hours later, to be
Yeah,
fair,
it
wasn't
was,
it?
Yeah,
it was
literally.
really like,
Yeah. Johnson was sworn in on Air Force One, next to the coffin, next to Jacqueline Kennedy, still still splattered in blood.
2 hours and 8 minutes after he was shot.
Yeah.
you thought they'd last, you know, just waited till the next day out of, you
Nope.
know.
Respect.
He
Respect.
wanted it. That was it. He's doing it next to the body.
You gotta do it, haven't you? You gotta have
The president in
president.
play.
Yeah.
But that's what the vice president's for, though, isn't it? To be the president if the president is
Yep.
unavailable.
They
Yeah,
could-
and surely you can be just the vice president for that day and just, you
Could
know.
have been, of course he could have been, but he didn't want to be.
No.
He just purely, solely wanted to be president.
You just think how Jackie's feeling. She's just sat there. I mean, they're doing it with her next to add a bit of gravitas to it. Oh, look, the First Lady's here. She approves. She doesn't know. She knows what the fuck's going on at this point.
She didn't even. She got to spend her last night in the White House that night.
Yeah.
So she was getting booted out in the morning, basically. Like, fuck, man.
Heartless.
Give her a week to gather her fucking self, at least.
Yeah. Out of respect, he should, you know, be anointed the next day.
And she should be allowed to just mourn a bit and then leave the White House.
Yeah.
Well, you
They
know,
can live
as
in the granny annex.
As his wife, you know, I'd have gone, are you taking the piss? Can you not wait till tomorrow morning? You know, it's literally been 2 hours. You can make any decisions as the vice president, you know.
Nowadays,
I bet she was, like you
maybe.
say, shell shocked. She's just
she's-
like, oh, do what you know, or she might not even been speaking.
She probably wasn't, to be fair. She's probably just stood there completely numb. I mean,
They'll
it's...
probably be like, Jackie, we're having to do this, and she's just like, oh.
Covered in her fucking husband's blood.
Yeah.
You know, she didn't even get changed. She didn't even bring, let her go and get changed or something. No, stand there, do it. 2 hours ago, you had a lot. You were with your husband, and you were first lady, and the man you loved was next to you, and now he's in a coffin. We had to take some seats out to get him on.
And then 3 days later, the funeral.
Yeah,
Quick, wasn't it? Quick turnaround.
it certainly is.
The president's dead. Don't you want to gather all the evidence you can and?
Yeah. Do they do the same, like for the Queen over here? People walk past the
Oh.
coffin. Do they do that sort of stuff in
No.
the presidents?
No.
No, but they lined Pennsylvania Avenue, 800,000 people watching the procession go by.
Right,
The
okay.
closest thing to that was the eve that he was brought back to Washington, wasn't it? And he spent his last night in the White House and he had the guard, and she demanded all the guard to watch the coffin, not take their eyes off the coffin, which is against tradition, because traditionally they'd be stood facing away from the coffin, just like ours were with the Queen and things like that.
That's an odd request, isn't it?
She didn't want no fucker to tamper with that body. And that's what she was getting at. She wanted to make sure them special forces fucking guys did not take their eyes off that coffin. Whether that worked or not, how many people outrank the dead president's first lady?
Quite a few. The president, for a start.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So who knows?
No. All right. So, the President's Commission on the Assassination of President Kennedy, known as the Warren Commission, concluded that, quoted, the shots which killed President Kennedy and wounded Governor Connolly were fired from the 6th floor window at the southeast corner of the Texas School Book Depository. It also said the shots which killed President Kennedy and wounded Governor Connolly were fired by Lee Harvey Oswald.
Who acted alone.
That was it. It was Oswald. He ain't telling anybody anymore. Jack Ruby's the biggest dick in history. Really. One of the biggest dicks in history.
Yeah, because if you hadn't have killed him.
Who is, sorry?
Jack Ruby.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And despite the official finding, many believe Oswald didn't act alone, or that other conspirators from the world of organised crime, to the CIA, to Cuban exiles. Who else can we add in there? Let's go through the list. CIA,
Vice President.
Cuban exiles, the mob, the Vice President,
Marilyn Monroe.
Marilyn Monroe. Who else is there?
You've got
Elvis
Russia,
Presley.
Russia,
Soviet Union.
KGB.
Elvis.
Maybe only if he's been recruited by the CIA at this point, he's Agent Elvis.
Sasquatch. Don't forget
Yeah,
Sasquatch.
Sasquatch.
Potentially Sasquatch.
From Pete's New Theory.
Hey, I'm sure we can find a blurry 1963 photograph of what looks like a large hairy man behind it. It may be a bush, might be a Sasquatch, we'll never know. There's a lot of people, and of course the military-industrial complex, let's not forget them.
There's also accidental death from his own security team, potentially.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a case for a negligent discharge to be made.
And do you know what? Looking at the trajectory that you see on the video that we all clearly saw on Prime, Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
That's where it was we saw it.
This is the Zapruder film.
Mm-hmm. There is I could believe that it could have come from within the car. And
It's the car behind.
no, see, I see, I'm thinking someone in the car.
There's no the only guy. There was a guy trotting behind
You're
him.
telling me nobody had a gun in that car?
2 guys in the front.
Yeah. You're telling me somehow in the panic.
Oh, you
maybe
think
one
he
of
was
them-
popped? No, you'd see it on the film.
How would you see that on a film?
There's a Zapruder film shows them.
How would you see that on a film?
Oh, you mean like some sort of secret
Right.
way? Yeah, so you put it under your arm.
It could.
Different type of round, though. We'll
Well,
say
should we say this for next week?
Yeah.
that's your issue.
It's a rabbit hole, isn't it?
There's still lots of stuff classified, as you've touched on. It was meant to be a big release last year. Biden censored most of it. Even Trump didn't release it, and he said he was going to.
Yeah, they keep putting it back, don't they?
What's with that? I thought Trump, was For the truth.
He might have
Trump
been.
for truth.
He might have been.
The
But how many
biggest liar
people?
in history.
But how many people around him stop it? Just like our Prime Minister might want to do the best in the world, but if the rest of his party's like, nah, I don't want to do that, he can't do it.
Or it's the CIA saying, you know, let's not be doing that.
Yeah, maybe I think it was Bill Hicks, the US comedian, said, "Oh, you get this president, he comes into power, he's like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I want to do this," and they're like, come into the CIA, say, come into this room with us, and they show him the Kennedy assassination and go, "You're going to do what we say."
Yeah, they show a different film, don't they?
Yeah.
Of the Kennedy assassination, the real shooter. They say, you know, this will happen to you if you don't do what we say.
Maybe that's what it is.
Maybe.
And Kennedy wanted to smash the CIA. Didn't like it.
Nope.
Wanted to scatter it to the winds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose that at that point they didn't have the video of Lincoln, did they?
No.
So
Well, the
they
reason
could-
they couldn't time
show-
traveller footage.
They couldn't show that to Kennedy to say, look, this is what happens if you go against this punk.
And according to a 2017 poll by 538, just 33% of Americans believe Oswald alone killed Kennedy.
Yeah. I'm just from that video I seen, I thought it was a shot from the front.
Me too.
And I mean both shots, mate, potentially, because the way you see him grab that first one, I didn't realise that came from the back.
Yeah,
Because
that's a
second
definite shot from the rear.
Yeah, but then the second shot, because that comes from the front, he goes,
Yeah.
his head goes back. It don't go fucking forward and slump.
I've got a counter to
Well,
that.
it does in the official evidence because they reversed.
Yeah, of course
They
they did.
reversed the film.
Fucking twats.
Them 2 frames, but yeah, we'll get into this next week.
Yeah.
I might be able to disprove the shot from the front.
Ooh.
Ooh, come back next week for that then.
And on that note,
Yeah, I've been Ben. Thanks for listening. Don't drink the flavour aid, don't join a cult, don't piss off the CIA.
I've been Mike, thanks for listening. Peace out, may the force be with you.
I'm Claire, thanks for listening. It's open mind, but not so open that it spills like it is.
and I'm Pete. Everyone have a nice week. Take care. Bye.